How does Kidero and Raila come in? I mean, what links Kidero to Raila?
There's a possibility that when he forms government, there's a possibility that once he forms government, the very same, the likes of Kidero will get back to government and they'll be entrusted with these positions.
If he did that, then he will be a foolish person. If he gave these crooks the same jobs to revive what they collapse, then he will be a foolish person. I doubt Raila is a fool. Raila cannot make those kind of stupid mistakes. If, however, Raila does what everybody else does in this country, when it's time to appoint people, you go to cronies, huyu ni mtoto rafikia baba yangu, this one is my tribesman, this one finance my campaign,
clansmate,
this one is classmate, this one because Uhuru has helped me, ameniletea huyu. This baby will die under his watch, on his laps. Because this country is in ICU. You need the best hands on deck. People, especially in Western Kenya, were asking Raila to allow them to pull down President Uhuru's portrait and put his portrait on there. They were even asking the deal with saboteurs, some companies. We don't want to name them here today. Then they were not only willing to boycott, they were willing to jettison them out of the region. And David Ndii was talking of secession. They were talking of constituent assemblies. That is not a joke. Countries have gone down for simpler things than those. So if Raila was going to stop all that by merely taking an oath to be people's president and thereafter move into a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, I think we must laud Raila Odinga for that.
In our previous edition, we looked at the economic agenda under Deputy President William Ruto's presidential bid and whether they are feasible and viable enough in the fullness of time. Now, on this particular edition, we shift gears and look at Raila Amolo Odinga's economic agenda and also whether they are feasible and viable enough. And what ghosts from the past are likely to jeopardize these very same economic agendas. My name is Richard Mwenja, as always, your resident host here on the channel. And now to delve into this subject, I'm joined by Kenya's most sought after political analyst and strategist, the first of his name, man like no other, Herman Manyora. How are you doing, sir?
Fine.
All right, you're looking good in a checked shirt.
Thank you.
I see. Now, Raila Amolo Odinga has fronted a number of economic models that he wants to use to revitalize Kenya's economy should he get the presidency seat come August 2022. Now, one of the programs he is set to run is the Inua Jamii program, where we'll see 6,000 Kenya shillings cash transfers to the most vulnerable in the Kenyan society. Would you say that given our constrained fiscal space, this is fiscal viable and sustainable enough?
Yeah, viable from the point of view of money being available. Even 6 is too little. We can afford even 30.
Now, how do we go about the fiscal consolidation to get these funds in place?
You stop theft. We steal a lot more than that many times over.
Really?
Yes. They have told us, the leaders of this country, for many years, that we steal a third of our budget. Today, a third of our budget is about $1 trillion. Basic calculation on 6 million, if you are giving it to households, doesn't even get to 100 billion or just thereabout.
How do we stop this theft? Yet the very same Raila Odinga has expressed his mistrust and lack of confidence in the very same agencies. You've seen his position.
If he's president and he can't stop theft, then he has no business being president. I would believe Raila will stop theft. If he doesn't stop theft, then we better forget it.
But by now he should be addressing issues how we'll streamline the likes of ESCC, DCI, and all those financial reporting centers.
I tell people, you don't need those institutions. These institutions are an admission of failure. This is cosmetics to please others. People must be reminded that EACC, I think then it was CASA, whatever it was called, headed by Harun Mwao and then a few other fellows, was put in place at the time we had been made a pariah state. When we had been abandoned, nobody was believing us. Our development partners, IMF, World Bank, they said we were missing. So we wanted to show them that we actually are going back on track. We will check corruption. Then we said, countries that fight corruption do not need those things. We don't have corruption in Kenya. We have theft. And the police are sufficient to arrest the thieves charge them, and take them to committee.
And you're afraid that they...
So Raila does not need to talk about... You just need one man or woman at State House, on the hill there. One, with the will to fight corruption, and it dies the same day.
All right. But you've also been on record saying Raila's, of course, will to fight graft is there, but the flesh is tired, the soul is willing.
You know, there are challenges. I'm saying the Raila of 2007 is not the Raila of 2022. Those are facts. Again, he has had new friends, new partnerships, and along the line, you end up making a few compromises here and there. That's normal.
All right.
Yeah.
I see. One of the agendas under Raila Odinga's economic plan for Kenya is revamping and revitalizing some of failed state corporations. You've seen Ida Odinga address the issue of Ahero, rice schemes in there, also Mumia's sugar company and the rest. Now, would you say, what's your position on this? Because many are alleging the very same corporations started going on a downward trajectory when Raila was the prime minister back then. Now, how can he revamp him? It's a case of double standards and double speak. Does that fly for you?
You know, I don't have the information to that effect. Mm-hmm. What I know, the sugar industry was designed to fail in this country from inception. And it has been ailing for years. Long before Raila became prime minister, the sugar industry was facing challenges.
But they say
many of the factories, you know, I'm giving you facts. Those are what they say, but I'm giving you facts. Many of the factories had long closed. We had long forgotten Miwani and the rest. Ramisi or
Zoya Sugar and all.
You know, Chemilil. We had long forgotten about them. People in Zoya, Mumi, they were all struggling. The worst that happened to Mumias happened long before Raila became prime minister. So, how you link him with the collapse of those, I have a problem understanding.
No, it's what majority Kenyans are saying.
It's what they are saying, but the facts don't seem to support them.
All right, but also his
if
close
you say
associates...
Pan Paper, which is Western, failed, at what point was it sold by the government?
But then his close associates, talk of Evans Kidero, have been the one who've been accused most of, say, bringing the Mumias sugar industry down. Now, how does he clean his linen? How
does Kidero and Raila come in? I mean, what links Kidero to Raila?
There's a possibility that when he forms government, there's a possibility that once he forms government, the very same, the likes of Kidero will get back to government and they'll be entrusted with these positions.
If he did that, then he will be a foolish person. If he gave these crooks the same jobs to revive what they collapsed, then he will be a foolish person. I doubt Raila is a fool. Right. Raila cannot make those kind of stupid mistakes. Okay. But you know, these are politicians. They sometimes disappoint you. But I expect Raila to know that this country is doing so badly, that this country is collapsing, and there's only one way of returning hope, ensuring that this country is back on track, that there's economic revival, that then takes care of the poverty levels and all the misery Kenyans are going through. And that is to identify the best men and women to give responsibility to help you run government if you are President Raila Odinga. If, however, Raila does what everybody else does in this country, when it's time to appoint people, you go to cronies, huyu ni mtoto rafikia baba yangu, this one is my tribesman, this one finance my campaign.
Clansmate.
This one is classmate.
Yeah.
This one, because Uhuru has helped me, I'm letter huyu. This baby will die under his watch, on his laps. Because this country is in ICU. You need the best hands on deck. You need the best men. There's no, whether it is Uhuru or Raila, there's no way of saving this country from imminent collapse than getting the very best this country has.
All right.
And giving them the charge to run this country.
Absolutely. Yeah. Way before the handshake came on board, Raila was really loud enough in soiling, in what majority are saying was soiling Kenya's name before the international arena with regards to corruption. He particularly said everyone under Jubilee, under the stewardship of Uhuru Kenyatta, are all corrupt leaders and Kenya should do away with them. Now, he is actually working directly with Uhuru Kenyatta. But there's also an international reputation failure that he has brought on board as Kenya being an economy full of graft, and this perhaps has scared away many foreign investors. How do you view this?
You know, when there's corruption, you don't even need to talk about it. People know. I've said Obama came here and talked about it. Hillary Clinton was here, 2008 or thereabout, and she talked about it. Who doesn't know of corruption in Africa? Everybody knows. You know, they don't even need to be told. They know more than you.
But they say he has exaggerated the fight on corruption.
He has just mentioned the scratch. He has just scratched. If he was to mention about corruption in this country, then people they would collapse.
Then how will you advise him to now address the issue of now attracting back foreigners who are skeptical on investing in Kenya?
There's only one way. Actual two is, number one, I've said, get the best men and women to work with you. Number two, give the fight against corruption a really fight. Mm-hmm. In other words, let us see the will. Let me tell you this. If you go to State House and are sworn in and then head to State House, if I headed to State House, all the thieves would run away from this country. They would just know this is not a man I'm going to joke with. They would run away.
You said actually you're going to revive careers of prison tailors.
Oh, if I was president, I'll put all these guys in jail. I will even change the law to do some good stuff to them. I will ask Parliament to give me more powers to deal with thieves. They will disappear. They will not be there because they can't compromise me.
Does that perhaps explain why they haven't taken you up to the cabinet this far?
Maybe they know I am not one of them. I don't. If you make me a minister, I'll be the most different minister. I will not be like the rest. I will not. When you become a minister, small guys and boys put you on their fingers. And they do things like this every time. Oh, Bwana Waziri, there's a cocktail here. Oh, ambassadors. You cannot do that with me. I'll set my own agenda as cabinet secretary. I'll look at the priorities. I'll look at the policies. I'll look at the failures of the ministry. I'll look at what to do. And I can advise you, what you are looking for is simple. If Raila wants to help the people, it's not about 6,000 shillings. It's not about... Create like a ministry of cooperative of community development. Make it very powerful with resources. Let it harness all these people who are struggling down there and see how to help them grow their businesses into formal businesses. Along the line, working with KRA. If I was in charge, KRA will employ 250,000 people instantly. 250,000, 250,000 or more, to help small-scale people down there working on their farms, working on the mamambogas, juakali, border borders. The intention, if I'm president, that in 5 years, all these things you are seeing in formal sector will be formal. Because you cannot run a country on a juakali mode. You get it? You cannot run a city, for example, with all these informal things around border, matatu, you can't. Nairobi will collapse. It's already collapsed. It's a dead city. And I've said it repeatedly. So I'm not seeing any of these efforts people are making being able to turn down this country.
All right. Sticking to the corruption context, he has for many years declared Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy and many under the Jubilee incompetent because of their corruption. How then does he expect to work with Uhuru Kenyatta? Because Uhuru is clearly endorsing him for the presidency, yet he has found Uhuru incompetency. Is that a case of double standards and double speak?
Yeah. Raila might answer you by telling he'll be in charge. Once you are in charge, the driver, you are the driver. There may be pickpockets on bus. You know, when the kuwashukisha. Haven't you boarded a matatu in this city where the driver stops the matatu and tells the conductor, ambia huyu mtu ashuke, ambia watu washuke, because they know all these pickpockets. The drivers, matatu drivers, they know all the pickpockets, all of them. And even if they don't know them, once he enters, the driver knows that is a pickpocket. Some of them stop and say, tell those two guys to get out, because they're pickpockets. You get it? So if Raila is in the driving seat, he may choose to tell any pickpocket to get out. He may reform them. You can work even with a thief if you know how to reform the thief.
All right.
So I'm not saying that's what he will do, but I will be expecting he knows. Sometimes when you need government, when you need to change things, you need power. Sometimes to get that power, you may work with the devil himself. Okay? To get that power. I would assume once you have the power, you will jettison the devil. Tell him, kick him out. Or reform him. So, cousin kwa Raila.
All right.
Back to him.
Under Raila Odinga's economic plan is the Baba Care program that seeks to ramp up universal health coverage pilot programs that have been initiated by President Uhuru Kenyatta and his administration. How will you advise him to go around the issue of making healthcare affordable and a quality one at it?
there are two ways. One is the Kawaida way, the other one is the Manyora way.
Tell us the
Kawaida way, improve NHIF, pay workers well, do all this.
But you've written off NHIF. Let's look the Manyora way here.
The Manyora way is offer free health services in government hospitals. You walk in, you get treated, you walk out free. Nobody asks you anything. The only thing they will ask from you, and that's how the Huduma number would come in, is are you a Kenyan? Once we establish you are a Kenyan, you get free of all, nothing, you are charged zero. That means you revamp our existing health facilities, you train more health workers, you compensate them and pay them fairly and reasonably. We have sufficient money in this country to offer free quality health services to Kenyans. Free quality. But we don't want to do that because we are making business with the lives of Kenyan through the NHIF, which is a fraud.
All right.
Yes.
Raila Odinga's position at the African Union as the special envoy for infrastructure, is it likely to endear him as now the person who is going to take Kenya's infrastructural setup a notch higher once he becomes president, or the position has nothing to do with the ability to transform Kenya?
In the first place, Raila was given that AU position because of his views on infrastructure. When they took over power, when he was campaigning in 2007 and when they were with Kibaki in the coalition government, Raila kept saying infrastructure number 1, infrastructure number 2, infrastructure number 3. I think he knows a lot depends on opening up the country, on creating the relevant infrastructure for takeoff. So I would suppose, again, I'm just saying I would suppose that if Raila becomes president, he will not only focus more on infrastructure, but he will know that corruption resides in those areas of energy and road construction. That he will free resources to actualize his dream of infrastructure. Free resources, and you free the resources by stopping theft. And you find theft in the energy sector and in the road construction sector. So yes, he should focus on infrastructure, but he will not do he will not introduce much difference until he frees the resources from theft. Then he will pump them in infrastructure.
Since his appointment to that position, do you feel he has really ramped up infrastructure development in Kenya this far within the few years, or really negotiated for some?
There is. I will ask the director to play you a clip. Maybe you'll watch after this on infrastructure. You hear Raila talking. I think he was somewhere when he's talking about the two problems facing Africa, which is energy and infrastructure in terms of roads. And he talks of linking Cape Town to Cairo, where to where. You understand this is a man who is on top of his game. He understands the issues of infrastructure in Africa extremely well. And I'm sure if there are people like him who think about that way and think about Africa in terms of developing infrastructure and dealing with the energy problem, so that Africa may begin to trade with itself. You know? I was in Taifa Hall when Hillary Clinton was saying, Africa, you have enough market, more than Europe. At that time, the population of Africa was about 700 million. The population of Europe was barely 400 million. So she was saying, why are you fighting to have a market in America with the 200 million people? You yourself have almost 1 billion people. Now we are at 1.3 billion people. We would be the biggest market. We don't need another market. So you cannot do that, like Raila says, until you have the infrastructure to connect African countries and capitals and markets, and to invest in energy production, so that you can then propel development.
The very last, sir, we've seen the case of Uganda, where Idi Amin Dada literally derailed Uganda's economic development and growth back in the days, and also cases of several dictators around the world who lived during that time. What Raila Odinga did after 2017 elections by swearing himself to power as the people's president, isn't it likely to portray him as a dictatorial president and one who will take power to his hands, which of course is a potential threat to foreign investors? Investors will definitely back out from a country where the president really takes power by immense levels.
there are those who will view it that way, but there are also those who will give it a more critical view and look at events leading to Raila's swearing in. And there are those who will say this man is a genius. Raila is a statesman and is a man who loves this country. You can imagine if Raila knew that wasn't the right thing to do. But the people wanted that thing to happen yesterday. Remember, there were radicals like David Ndii and Miguna. This country was about to slide into a Central African Republic.
Absolutely.
Where the people themselves are the ones causing trouble without a leader. When you have a problem in a country and we have masses without leadership fighting government, my friend, that's a disaster. So supposing Raila then, he opted to say, okay, fine, I am intelligent enough to know this swearing in is bad, but I have no control over the masses. I can't tell them. What will I tell them? So I'm not swearing myself in. Let me say I'm taking a holiday in Europe, and then he leaves Miguna with the rest. What will this country have looked like? So if you ask me, a more critical analysis and examination of the issue, since what Raila did was the best option.
For the country.
For the country. It was in the interest of the country. Failure to do that, the Migunas were taking over. People, especially in Western Kenya, were asking Raila to allow them to pull down President Uhuru's portrait and put his portrait on there. They were even asking the deal with saboteurs, some companies, we don't want to name them here today. Then they were not only willing to boycott, they were willing to jettison them out of the region. And David Ndii was talking of secession. They were talking of constituent assemblies. That is not a joke. Countries have gone down for simpler things than those. So if Raila was going to stop all that by merely taking an oath to be people's president and thereafter move into a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, I think we must laud Raila Odinga for that.
The very last, Uhuru Kenyatta recently said that BBI is a dream postponed but not a dream deterred,
yes,
which Raila Odinga is greatly supporting. And they say in the fullness of time, BBI will happen. Yeah. However, Ruto is criticizing some provisions, the BBI, like the increased position, which will see the ballooning of our wage bill. But how comes Raila is viewing it from this angle and optic?
How come it's not?
Viewing it from the optic of having such extra position under the BBI will see us not probably meet
in
our
America, there's one side that says we want lean government. That's the Republican side. There's the Democratic side say let's serve the people even if it means big government. These are debates everywhere. But how does 3 more people balloon the wage bill? If we have deputy and president, if we had a prime minister and 2 deputies and maybe an official leader, how does that, in terms of
budget deficit,
does it look like anything you want to discuss?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that point by Herman Manyora takes us to the wrap of this conversation, touching on Raila Odinga's economic agenda for the country. Should he get elected as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya come August 22 general elections, and what seem to be visible, or rather viable in the agenda, and what really is more of a casting aspersions. At this point, I bring on board our fan of the week, who is Richard Malaba in Sweden.
Richard Malaba from Sweden, thank you very much for being part of the family. Encourage others to join the family. Thank you very much.
Well, all right, keep tuned in to our channel at Herman Manyora on YouTube. I'm at Mwenja Richard on Twitter, at Manyora as well. So make sure this conversation goes on beyond here. We really are delighted anytime you comment on our content, and also when you give us ideas on what we should cover in our subsequent editions. Up next on your screen is the Business Glide African Proverb of the Day.